You don't defeat manipulation by reacting harder. You win by refusing to be moved at all. Because here's the truth. The moment you raise your voice, defend yourself, explain yourself, chase understanding, or try to fix someone else's chaos, you've already lost control of your own. Every narcissist, every emotional manipulator, every person who thrives on drama feeds off one thing: your reaction. They don't need to be right. They just need you engaged. And every time you bite the hook by explaining, arguing, or defending, you hand them the remote control to your emotions. I know what that feels like. You tell yourself you're just trying to clear the air. You want peace, so you keep talking. But what you don't realize is that you're playing a game where the other person keeps changing the rules. And the more you try to win it, the deeper you sink into it. That's why silence isn't weakness. It's power. It's not that you don't care. It's that you finally understand you don't need to prove your care anymore. Today, I want to teach you something that could change the way you handle every toxic dynamic in your life. 2 ways to stop feeding manipulation: the gray rock and emotional zero. Now, most people use these words like they mean the same thing, but they don't. Gray rock is a tactic. Emotional zero is transformation. One makes you quiet on the outside. The other makes you calm on the inside. And when you learn the difference, when you stop performing silence and start embodying peace, nobody can control you again. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly when to use each one, how to walk into the storm, stay centered, and walk out untouched. Because the truth is, you don't have to fight for peace. You just have to stop giving your power away. Let me tell you something most people get wrong. Silence doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes silence means pain with the volume turned down. I've talked to people who stayed quiet for years, not because they were calm, but because they were scared. Scared that speaking up would make things worse. Scared that defending themselves would prove the other person right. Scared that if they just stayed small enough, polite enough, quiet enough, maybe the chaos would stop. That's not peace, that's paralysis. And I say that with love because I've been there. You think you're keeping the peace, but really you're holding your breath in a room full of smoke, waiting for the air to clear, and it never does. Silence only becomes power when it's chosen from strength, not fear. When it comes from awareness, not exhaustion. When it's rooted in control, not collapse. See, the world loves to tell you to just walk away, don't engage, go no contact, but nobody tells you how to do that and still keep your dignity intact. Nobody tells you that detaching isn't the same as disappearing. So let's clear that up right now. There are 2 kinds of silence. The first is defensive silence. That's when you shut down, repress, retreat, and swallow the words you wish you could say. That's what most people do when they first try to stay calm. But that silence eats you alive from the inside out. The second kind is disciplined silence. That's awareness in motion. It's when you've trained your nervous system to stay calm, even while someone else is losing control. It's when you choose not to react, not because you're scared, but because you finally see that reacting is the trap. That's what this talk is about. Because there's a difference between keeping quiet and being grounded, between shutting down and standing tall. Gray rock and emotional zero, they both look like silence, but one is a mask and the other is mastery. Gray rock is about protecting your energy when someone's trying to bait you. Emotional zero is about owning your energy so no one can bait you at all. One is survival, the other is freedom. And if you've been living in survival mode, if you've spent years walking on eggshells, thinking silence is safety, I need you to stay with me, because we're about to turn that silence into strength. Now that you understand why silence matters, let's talk about what's really happening inside your brain every time you get pulled into someone else's chaos. Let's talk about what really happens when someone pushes your buttons. Because it's not just emotional, it's chemical. Every time that toxic person rolls their eyes, twists your words, or pretends you're overreacting, something ancient wakes up inside your brain. It's the survival system, the part wired to protect you from danger. And when it activates, your body floods with adrenaline and cortisol. You're not thinking anymore, you're defending. Your heart races. Your breath shortens. Your logic shuts down. And you move into fight, flight, or freeze. That's why you can't seem to stay calm, even when you promise yourself you will. Because calm isn't a mindset, it's a state of the nervous system. And until you understand that, you'll keep losing control to anyone who knows how to trigger you. See, manipulators, especially narcissists, they don't just argue, they activate. They provoke emotions on purpose because they know once you're emotional, they're in charge. You're no longer responding, you're reacting. And when you react, they control the tempo, the tone, the entire dance. They say something cruel, you defend. They twist the truth, you explain. They act hurt, you comfort. They disappear, you chase. And before you know it, you're doing all the emotional labor in a relationship that's built on confusion. But here's what most people don't realize. Every reaction you give teaches their brain that the manipulation works. It rewards the pattern, so they repeat it. And you, without meaning to, keep rehearsing your own reactivity. You're training yourself to lose control faster next time. But awareness breaks that loop, because when you know it's your survival system, not your weakness, you stop taking it personally. You start observing it instead of drowning in it. That's where strategy comes in. 2 ways to interrupt that internal storm before it sweeps you away. 1 short term, 1 lifelong. The first is called gray rock. It's a behavioral shield. The second is emotional zero. It's a state of being. Gray rock helps you survive the storm. Emotional zero helps you stop creating storms at all. But before we talk about peace, let's start with protection. Because if you're still in the middle of chaos, you need armor first. Let's start with gray rock. If you've ever dealt with a manipulator, you already know what this feels like. They're testing you, poking, prodding, waiting for you to react so they can pull you into the same fight you've had 100 times before. Gray rock is how you stop being their entertainment. It's not about being fake. It's about being flat, emotionally flat, dull, uninterested, like a gray rock on the ground, unremarkable, unresponsive, and absolutely not fun to play with. Here's the core principle. If they can't get energy out of you, they can't control you. So when they throw bait, you don't bite. When they twist your words, you don't untangle them. When they fish for attention, you don't swim toward the hook. You stay steady, calm, minimal, predictable. It's not passive. It's strategic. Now, let's be honest, this isn't easy because your instinct will scream, say something, defend yourself, make them see. But here's the truth. People who manipulate aren't listening for understanding. They're listening for openings. And every word you say gives them more to work with. So gray rock gives you a script, a behavioral shield. It teaches your nervous system to hold the line. You answer questions with neutral facts. You use short, calm phrases like, I understand. That's your opinion. I'll think about it. New tone, new sarcasm, new defense, just neutrality. And when they escalate, because they will, you stay the same. They raise their voice, you lower yours. They demand urgency, you slow down. They try to guilt you, you pause before you respond. Gray rock is the art of boredom. You become emotionally unprofitable. And that's the moment they start looking elsewhere for supply. But here's what most people miss. Gray rock isn't meant to be forever. It's a tactic, not a transformation. It protects you when you're still close to the fire in a relationship, a workplace, or a family dynamic where walking away isn't yet possible. It gives you breathing room to plan your next move without losing yourself in the chaos. But if you stay there too long, if you live in that numb, guarded state, you start losing touch with your own warmth. You start to confuse emotional neutrality with emotional shutdown. You stop reacting to them, but you also stop connecting with yourself. And that's not power. That's exhaustion, wearing armor. Gray rock keeps you safe, but it doesn't set you free. It's survival mode, valuable, necessary, but temporary. You use it when you have to. You drop it when you can. Because once you've created that distance, once the noise dies down, it's time to build something stronger than a tactic, something internal, something unshakable. That's where emotional zero comes in. It's not about pretending to be calm. It's about actually being calm no matter what's happening around you. Now let's talk about emotional zero. Because once you've built the armor, the next step is to realize you don't need armor at all. Emotional zero isn't silence. It isn't indifference. It's mastery. It's the point where you stop performing calm and start being calm. It's the state of knowing that you don't have to join every argument you're invited to. You don't have to match someone's chaos just because they handed it to you. You don't have to prove your worth in conversations that were never meant to honor it. Emotional zero is when your peace becomes your default. It's not something you fight for, it's something you protect. Here's how it works. Every manipulator thrives on one thing: emotional reaction. They want intensity, love, hate, anger, guilt, anything that feeds the connection. But when you stop giving it, when you meet provocation with true neutrality, they have nowhere to go. And I'm not talking about acting neutral. I'm talking about a deep physical stillness that comes from knowing who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. Imagine their chaos, like waves crashing on the surface of the ocean. You're the ocean floor, steady, solid, unmoved. The waves roar, the water churns, but you don't move. That's emotional zero. It begins with awareness. You notice what's happening instead of reacting to it. You catch yourself in the moment when your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your words rush to your lips, and you take a breath, you count it down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, not to run away, but to recenter. Then you name the pattern. That's manipulation. That's guilt control. That's projection. And when you name it, it loses its mystery. You've taken back your power because what's predictable can no longer control you. Next, you refocus your energy. You don't pour attention into the chaos. You redirect it into your purpose, your values, your next move. The drama fades when you stop feeding it. That's what separates emotional zero from gray rock. Gray rock says don't react. Emotional zero says don't need to react. Gray rock is control over your behavior. Emotional zero is control over your inner state. And that shift, that moment when you realize you can stay calm no matter what they do, that's when you stop being their puppet. Because power isn't loud, it's steady. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows they're untouchable, not because they built walls, but because they found their center. When you reach emotional zero, their words become noise. Their games become patterns. Their validation becomes irrelevant. And peace stops being something you chase. It becomes something you embody. Now, once you understand both the armor and the awareness, it's time to compare them side by side, because one keeps you safe and one sets you free. Now you understand both sides of the equation, the tactic and the state, the armor and the transformation. Let's bring them together. Gray rock and emotional zero might look similar from the outside. Both are quiet, both are calm, both refuse to take the bait, but the energy behind them couldn't be more different. Gray rock says, I'm protecting myself. Emotional zero says, I don't need protection. Gray rock is survival. Emotional zero is sovereignty. Gray rock is what you do when the environment is unsafe. It's the shield you hold up when someone still has access to your emotions. It's how you stop bleeding energy into conversations that are built to drain you. You use it when you have to keep your composure at work, when you're co-parenting, when you can't yet walk away. But emotional zero, that's what happens after the storm. It's what happens when you've done the inner work, when you've named the patterns, when you've stopped personalizing their pain. You stop needing the shield because you've built the strength. Gray rock is tactical detachment. Emotional zero is spiritual detachment. One says, I will not react. The other says, there is nothing to react to. And that's the difference between surviving and evolving. You see, gray rock keeps you from drowning. It's your life raft. But emotional zero, that's learning how to swim. That's when you realize you were never meant to live in someone else's storm in the first place. Now, don't misunderstand me. Both have a place. When you're still healing, when you're still raw, you need the tactic. You need boundaries. You need to regulate yourself before you can transcend the trigger. But once you've created space, once your nervous system stops being hijacked by other people's chaos, that's when you evolve. You begin to live from peace, not from defense. You no longer say, I'm fine. You are fine. You no longer pretend to be calm. You are calm. You no longer perform detachment. You embody it. And here's the beautiful part. When you live in emotional zero, you don't just stop reacting to toxic people. You stop attracting them because peace recognizes peace. And chaos, once it realizes it can't find fuel in you, moves on. Gray rock builds the wall. Emotional zero makes the wall unnecessary. That's the evolution I want for you. Not just control, but clarity. Not just silence, but serenity. Not just safety, but freedom. And freedom begins when you train your nervous system to hold that peace in real life, not just in theory, but in practice. So next, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. Peace isn't a personality trait. It's a practice. And if you want to master emotional zero, to stay calm, no matter who's trying to shake you, you've got to train your nervous system to stay grounded under pressure. Because calm doesn't just happen. It's built one moment at a time. Let me show you how. There are 3 drills that will rewire your reactions faster than any motivational quote ever could. They're simple, but powerful because you're teaching your body, not just your mind, what control feels like. Drill 1, the micro pause. This one is the bridge between reaction and response. Here's how it works. The moment you feel that internal spark, your heartbeat quickens, your face warms, you feel words rushing to your mouth, pause. Don't fight it. Don't speak. Just count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe. That 5-second gap is the difference between chaos and control. It gives your brain enough time to shift from survival to awareness. When you use it, you're not ignoring your emotions. You're regulating them. You're saying to your nervous system, I'm safe. I'm in charge. We don't react here anymore. Drill 2, the body check, because your body tells the truth before your words ever do. Every time you're pulled into someone else's drama, scan yourself. Where's the tension? Is it in your chest, your jaw, your stomach? Notice it, name it, release it. Take a breath so deep it interrupts your pattern. Feel your feet on the ground. Drop your shoulders. Let your body remember what grounded feels like. You can't stay calm in your mind if your body still believes it's in danger. So we train the body first. The calm follows. Drill 3, the observation journal. Because transformation doesn't come from theory, it comes from noticing. Every time you get baited, write it down. Not to shame yourself, but to study yourself. What were the words that hooked you? What emotion rose first? Anger, guilt, fear? And what story did you tell yourself in that moment? That's not journaling, that's data collection. That's how you learn your own emotional patterns, so you can stop repeating them. The next time it happens, you'll recognize it like an old song. Oh, that's guilt. I know this one. And in that instant, you take your power back. You see, the goal isn't to become emotionless. It's to become emotionally disciplined. It's the ability to feel without reacting, to notice without absorbing, to care without collapsing. And every time you practice these drills, the pause, the body check, the observation, you're building emotional muscle. You're teaching yourself that calm isn't weakness, it's control. Because the person who can stay steady when everything else shakes, that's the person who wins. Not by fighting, not by convincing, but by mastering themselves. Now that you've learned the drills, it's time to test them. Let's put this into real life, the workplace, the relationship, the family table, and I'll show you what emotional zero looks like in action. Now let's take this out of theory and into life, where it really counts. Because it's one thing to understand calm when you're sitting on your couch. It's another to hold it when someone's in your face, twisting your truth and daring you to lose it. So I want you to picture 3 moments, 3 ordinary situations where emotional zero becomes your quiet superpower. Scenario 1, the workplace trigger. You walk into the office, the coworker who always finds a way to undermine you drops another sarcastic comment in the meeting. You feel that flash of heat, the impulse to clap back, to correct them, to make sure everyone knows they're wrong. Pause. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You inhale. You exhale. You turn your attention back to the task, not the trap. You let their words hang in the air, untouched, unvalidated. And in that silence, something powerful happens. Their control dies. The meeting moves on. They look small. You look composed. That's emotional zero. You didn't shrink. You just stopped feeding the noise. Scenario 2, the romantic dynamic. It's late. You're arguing with your partner. The conversation turns into a loop. Blame, defense, guilt, tears. You know this dance. You've done it before. But tonight, something shifts. You catch it. You recognize the bait, the twist, the push for a reaction, and you don't take it. Instead of explaining yourself for the 10th time, you pause, you breathe, and you say calmly, I'm not going to have this conversation like this. Let's talk when we're both calm. Then you step away. You don't slam doors. You don't storm out. You simply remove your energy from the argument. That's emotional zero. You didn't withdraw to punish, you withdrew to protect peace. Scenario 3, the family trap. You're at the family dinner table. The relative who always pushes your buttons takes another jab, maybe, about your choices, your boundaries, your life. Everyone looks at you, waiting for the explosion. But this time, there's no explosion. You smile politely. You take a sip of water. You don't defend. You don't explain. You let their comment pass through you like air. Because you've learned that not every attack deserves your truth. And not every opinion deserves your energy. That's emotional zero in its purest form, calm, grounded, untouchable. And I'll tell you what happens after that. The moment you stop reacting, people start showing you who they really are. The ones who thrive on conflict get louder for a while. They need to test the new you. But the ones who respect peace will meet you there. And over time, the dynamics in your life begin to shift because your energy teaches others how to treat you. You stop matching chaos. You start modeling calm, and that calm changes everything. Now, when you live this way long enough, you'll notice something else, a kind of emotional quiet that feels foreign at first. That's the beginning of healing. That's when silence stops being uncomfortable and starts feeling like home. So let's talk about what happens next, the phase that follows detachment, the peace that takes its place, and how to live in it without guilt. When you finally stop reacting, something strange happens. The world gets quiet. The chaos that used to fill your days suddenly has nowhere to go. And in that silence, you'll start to feel things you've been too busy surviving to notice. You'll feel guilt for walking away, for setting boundaries, for choosing peace over pleasing. You'll feel doubt, wondering if you were too harsh, too cold, too distant. And then you'll feel space. Space that used to be filled with other people's noise, now filled with your own thoughts. That space can feel lonely at first. Because for so long, your worth was wrapped up in how hard you tried, how much you gave, how loud you fought to be understood. But healing isn't about filling that space again. It's about learning to live in it. You start to realize how much energy you used to spend managing someone else's moods, how much of your peace you traded just to keep the room calm, how small you made yourself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. And now for the first time, you don't have to do that anymore. The quiet you feel now, that's not emptiness. That's freedom beginning to form. That's your nervous system, remembering what safety feels like. That's your body learning to rest again. So when the guilt creeps in, remind yourself, peace isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's the proof that you've stopped abandoning yourself to keep other people comfortable. You don't owe anyone access to your energy just because they once had it. You don't owe them another round of explanations. You don't owe them your peace. Healing is not about fixing the past. It's about protecting the future. It's choosing peace over patterns. And every time you choose it, every time you stay silent, grounded, and whole, you're teaching your body that calm is the new normal. Now that you've found the stillness, let's talk about what to do with it, how to build clarity, resilience, and purpose from this new foundation. Because healing doesn't end with quiet. It begins there. Now that we've walked through awareness, control, and calm, I want you to pause and ask yourself a question. What still triggers you? Not what someone else does. Not what they said, but what inside you still reacts when the world gets loud. Because healing doesn't mean you never get triggered. It means you recognize it faster. You recover faster. You stop giving the trigger more power than your peace. Let me tell you something important. The fact that you're even asking these questions means you're already growing. People who are still trapped in chaos don't ask, why do I react this way? They just react. So the moment you start observing yourself, that's progress. Now, I hear this all the time. Mel, isn't emotional zero just coldness? Doesn't it make me detached, uncaring? And my answer is no, not at all. Emotional zero isn't about shutting off your heart. It's about protecting it so it can stay open. It's about learning to love without losing yourself, to listen without absorbing someone else's pain, to stay soft without becoming small. That's what emotional maturity looks like. It's not distance, it's discernment. You're no longer pulled by every emotional current that passes by because you've learned to anchor yourself. So here's what I want you to reflect on right now. Write it down, say it out loud, whisper it to yourself. Where in my life am I still giving energy to chaos? What would change if I chose stillness over reaction? Who do I become when I stop needing to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding me? Those aren't rhetorical questions. They're invitations. Because awareness isn't just seeing the truth, it's living in it. And when you live in truth long enough, peace becomes your default setting. You'll start to notice it in small moments, how you breathe before answering a text that once made you anxious, how you smile instead of explaining, how you walk away, not because you're angry, but because you're free. This is integration. The moment you stop chasing healing and start embodying it, and when you reach that point, something shifts. You stop asking, when will they change? And you start realizing, I already did. Now, let's bring it home. Let's close this with the truth that ties it all together, the quiet, unshakable kind of power that no one can take from you once you find it. The opposite of control isn't chaos. It's calm. That's the lesson, and it's the victory. You've spent so much of your life trying to be heard, trying to be understood, trying to make things fair, but peace doesn't come from proving anything. Peace comes from no longer needing to. You don't win by explaining yourself to people who refuse to listen. You don't win by matching their noise, their anger, their chaos. You win by mastering yourself, your emotions, your energy, your attention. Because when you control your inner world, no one else can. The truth is, calm isn't passive. It's not weakness. It's strength under total control. It's clarity that no longer trembles. It's power that doesn't need to shout. That's what emotional zero gives you. That's what awareness builds. That's what boundaries protect. You don't have to fight to be respected. You just have to stop arguing with people who thrive on your reaction. You don't have to demand peace. You become it. And when you become it, the world around you changes. People can feel it. They stop pulling you into drama because they know you won't go. They stop twisting your words because they no longer work. They stop controlling you because they can't find the switch anymore. That's freedom. That's the quiet victory. Not the kind you announce, but the kind you live. So from now on, let your calm speak louder than their chaos. Let your silence do the work your words never could. And when someone tries to pull you back into the storm, remember this: you are not the waves, you are the ocean. Stay steady, stay grounded, and keep your power where it belongs with you